let's talk about what's really happening in your mind at 3 in the morning when you're replaying some random conversation from 2 weeks ago, or, when you're just staring at a blank page knowing you should start, but you just can't. We've all been there. This is the architecture of overthinking. So, if you ever feel like your mind is just stuck on a hamster wheel, it's not because you have a weak mind. Actually, it's the total opposite. Overthinking comes from a very, very active one. See, your brain is brilliant. It's amazing at connecting dots and imagining all sorts of scenarios. That ability is basically a superpower. Right up until the moment you're trying to pick a movie, and suddenly you've spent an entire hour analyzing every possible pro and con, and now you're just too tired to watch anything at all. And that's because the question your mind keeps asking isn't really, what should I do? No, it's this one. And it never stops there, does it? The loop just builds on itself, piling on the anxiety with every single new question, each one just feeding the next. It's this vicious cycle of fear-based questions that just fuels inaction, and it keeps you planted exactly where you are. And it's not even just about starting, is it? It's the fear of not being able to finish, of running out of steam. And this one, okay, this gets right to the heart of it. These questions aren't really about the task at hand. No, they're tapping into a much, much deeper fear, the fear that we're just not good enough. So why? Why do these questions pop up? Well, it's not because you're indecisive. They show up because your brain is trying to keep you safe. Seriously, it's scanning for threats. We're talking emotional, social, psychological threats. And it's doing exactly what it was designed to do. That feeling of dread you get before a big presentation, yeah, that's your brain in protection mode. And here's the wild part. To your nervous system, feelings like embarrassment or rejection or even regret, they can feel just as dangerous as an actual physical threat. So when a task feels important or a little uncertain, your brain just sounds the alarm. And this is that state. From the inside, it feels like you're being really responsible, super thorough. You're doing your due diligence. But from the outside, it just looks like you're procrastinating. Underneath it all, though, the intention is exactly the same: avoid pain. So this is absolutely crucial. You have to stop treating your overthinking like it's the enemy. The second you try to fight it, your brain just pushes back harder. It gets louder. Instead, try to understand what it's trying to do. It's not sabotage. It's just protection that's gone into complete overdrive. But here's where that protective instinct really goes off the rails. There's a line, a point where all that thinking stops being useful and just becomes a substitute for action. You're just circling the same questions over and over, and you're not getting any new clarity at all. This right here is the critical line that most of us just struggle to see. On one hand, you have productive analysis, which actually moves you closer to a decision. And on the other hand, you've got avoidance, which just keeps your brain busy so you get to feel productive without any of the risks that come with taking a real step. So here's a really simple test for yourself. If all that thinking you're doing isn't changing your very next action, it's not helping anymore. Think about it. You've analyzed something enough to know a possible first step, but you find yourself still thinking. We've all been there. That is not some moment of deep insight. Nope, that is fear, and it's wearing the mask of intelligence, trying to delay the messy, unpredictable reality of actually doing something. So what's the answer? Well, it's probably the most counterintuitive thing for an overthinker to accept. Clarity doesn't come from more thinking. It comes from movement. Your mind settles after you take action, not before it. Okay, let's break down how this actually works. When you take one tiny step, your brain gets real-world feedback, not just the imagined worst-case scenarios it's been cooking up. And that real data, it's incredibly calming. A single small action can collapse dozens of those what-if fears into one simple lived experience. And that teaches your nervous system, hey, this is survivable. This is exactly why methods like Kaizen, the idea of small improvements, work so well for overthinkers. It doesn't ask you to take some bold leap that's just going to trigger all those internal alarm bells. It's all about gentle experiments. Try something small, see what happens, adjust. There's no commitment beyond that one single next step. It's also really helpful to reframe your goal. You aren't deciding the rest of your life with one single move. You're not. You're just collecting information. Once your brain realizes that an action isn't some permanent one-way door that you can actually adjust, it starts to relax, and the need to overthink, It just naturally goes down. Now, the goal here isn't to eliminate thinking altogether. You don't want a silent mind. What you want is a cooperative one. And getting there requires a big shift in the questions we ask ourselves. So, instead of asking, how do I stop overthinking? Let's try asking a much more powerful question. How do I reassure my mind just enough to take one small step? And the answer is almost always the same. You make the step smaller, you make it feel safer, and you make it reversible. It's all about calming the mind, not provoking it into a fight. See, this whole approach isn't about conflict. You don't need to win some big argument inside your own head. You don't need to try and outsmart your brain's protective instincts. You just need to show it, gently and repeatedly, that moving forward doesn't mean you're moving into danger. And that is the moment when thinking and action finally stop being enemies. That's how you turn your incredible mind from an obstacle into your greatest ally.